Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episodes of Movies, Comics Underlined. Huh?
Ah, okay.
Okay. My name is Brandon. I'm also known as Fragger, and I'm joined, as usual, with the person who is as equal as billing as I am, Chris Rolo T.
Hello.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing good.
It's hot as dicks.
I like the heat though. I don't know if you've heard. I've lost a lot of weight, and like the inverse happened where I used to be fine during winter and summer was brutal. Complete opposite. Like it gets below 40 and I'm a complete bitch, but it gets up to like 120 and I'm just like, bring it on, tiny son.
See, I'm not a I'm a tiny dude, but I love the winter.
That's because you're high northeastern,
Mm-hmm.
so that's all you guys get. So you had to evolve to
No, no,
enjoy
no,
it.
no, 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 no. We also get upper 90s with like 100% humidity.
That's true. There's really nothing appealing about the Northeast at all.
No, it's just like right now, for some reason, it feels like it's like 110 right now. It's fucking ridiculous. I shouldn't even have pants on.
You have pants on?
Half
Who are you
because,
trying to impress? The Queen of England?
well, I'm also one of those kind of people. I don't like wearing shorts. So if it's like 90 degrees outside, I'm out in jeans going like, yo, what up?
Do you have like hideously disfigured or disfigured like legs
Face?
or something like
Yeah.
that? You're just like my shins are enormous.
No, I just don't like wearing them.
Yeah, that's fair enough, I guess.
Weird.
Freak
I'm weird.
monster. You weirdo.
Uh, but enough about me and my strange habits. We actually have a light bit of news this week. Thank God.
Yeah, until like 10 minutes into this episode, just like, holy crap, they just announced the Miss Marvel movie and they got Edgar Wright to direct it for some reason.
Now that it's all of a sudden, it's like Steven Spielberg only making Marvel movies from here on out,
Steven Spielberg for Thor 3, what the fuck?
and Marvel's just like mic drop, bitches.
They're just like, suck that, E3.
Then all of a sudden, DC's just damn.
Didn't see this one coming.
Marvel buys DC.
Oh man. Can you imagine that? And just the first issue would just have to be like, who's like some super lame Marvel hero, like fucking Luke Cage just beating the shit out of fucking Superman, just like suck it, loser.
And then like Superman's like, stop hitting me.
Stop it, you're a toughie. Ow.
No, it's
Oh
actually like
please
Professor
get out
X
of
actually
this.
beating him up with fists.
Yeah, just like pummeling him.
Yeah, exactly. But we actually have some interesting movie news.
Yes. Finally got confirmation. We talked last week about how if we hadn't heard anything by this week, we probably wouldn't hear anything until Comic Con. Comic Con.
I've called you out of that so many times.
Everyone calls me out on it. That and stupid. Apparently, I say stupid a lot, so people get annoyed. Anyway, we have Marvel news for who is going to be directing Ant-Man.
And it's such an exciting choice.
It's Peyton Reed, who is most known for, I guess, Yes Man.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that attached to him. There's a couple other movies he's done though as well.
That's the only one that sticks out to me.
Yeah, there's a couple other ones in there. But the other big piece of news is that Adam McKay, the Anchorman director who was on tap to direct it originally, and then, or after Edgar Wright, and then all of a sudden backed out of it, said he couldn't because of scheduling, is going to be working on the script.
Mm-hmm.
So the script is going to be essentially, I don't know how much of Edgar Wright's original script is going to remain at this point. I had to assume a fair amount of it because I don't think there's enough time for a full treatment.
It's probably going to be 75% of it if some of the rumors of why he left is true.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of what's going to change is probably going to be the punch up in comedy, but that may not be necessarily be a good thing if some rumblings I've heard are true. But that's the situation. Not a whole lot of people are excited about Peyton Reed.
Well,
And
I don't know if you're going to go with this defense, the Captain America 2 director's defense.
I've heard that thrown around a lot too, and yeah, it is true. Those guys only had directed a movie of you, me, and Dupree, and
Which was so good.
yeah, and then some community episodes. So there absolutely is the potential that Peyton Reed will be great, and I'm not saying he's not, but you do have to say though that this isn't like super exciting cast news because this is obviously like the third or fourth choice for Marvel at this point. They wanted to get Edgar Wright. They wanted Adam McKay. They wanted those other two guys, the guy from Zombieland or We're the Millers, and both of them kind of pulled away once they found out they weren't going to be first choice. So this is, not high on Marvel's totem pole of what they want for this, but I'd like to still hope that the pieces are in place, certainly with Paul Rudd and Michael Douglas, that this is going to be a very cool movie.
Yeah. It's one of those things that it does kind of, for me, depend on exactly what happened, what went down.
It's nobody knows. Nobody's really talking too much about it, though. One of the rumblings I heard is that Edgar Wright was starting to get really annoyed with some of the jokes that they wanted to write into the movie. They wanted to throw a lot of kind of like pop culture references in there.
That doesn't really sound like Marvel, though.
It doesn't, but I don't know who they got. I mean, obviously, with the fact that these are the names they're going for with directors, they want a comedic movie this time around. They want that comedy element to almost be just as much as the superhero element this time around.
We're gonna eventually find out exactly what's going on with this, but there's been some rumblings going on. I mean, I also heard the rumor that Wright wanted to make it a solo film.
Ooh, yeah, if that's the case, I can certainly see why.
That he was really fighting it, and that's one of the reasons why Pym wasn't in the series sooner, and why Iron Man is making Ultron.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's be perfectly honest, people love Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark. I wonder how much of that's going to take a hit after Ultron.
Oh, what you mean in terms of the fact that he's going to make Ultron so people blame him for it?
It's going to be one of those weird things where people might latch onto somebody else because he just created a fucking monster.
I don't unless they have him do horrible things. Unless it's like, the actual Amori, like he beats freaking, Black Widow or something like that. Or something like, if he just does something horrible, I could, but
it's one of those things where I'm just wondering if he's going to take a hit in likability, especially with how everyone's loving Cap at this point, too.
It's possible. I mean, I guess it remains to be seen exactly what tone this movie's going to take and how things are going to shape up afterwards.
Dark, grim, dark.
Yeah,
again.
well, exactly how much dark and grim dark we get. Worth noting though, with the press release that Marvel the Marvel put out on their website about this, we do actually find out a little bit of the plot of Ant-Man that wasn't known before.
Correct.
Just to read this off, armed with the astonishing ability to shrink in scale but increase in strength, Command Scott Lang must embrace his inner hero and help his mentor, Dr. Hank Pym, protect the secret behind his spectacular Ant-Man suit from a new generation of towering threats. Against seemingly insurmountable obstacles, Pym and Lang must plan and pull off a heist that will save the world. So it's got an interesting plot. It's certainly more interesting than what Ant-Man could be.
It usually does.
Yeah, I fucking nobody wants to follow my pacifism, so I'm gonna go really big and get punched and knocked out. By the way, this is solely off topic. I finished Avengers Earth Mightiest Heroes, and now I've started rewatching Justice League, and I forgot how much the Martian Manhunter is the bitch of that series, just like Ant-Man was in Avengers. Every time something happens, Martian Manhunter is the first one to go down.
Yeah. It's like things go down, he just gets punched in the face.
And the stuff he should be good at too, like I'm going to telepathically locate my mind. Like, God damn it, Martian Manhunter, you suck.
Aquaman's like, it's not me!
I'm the cool one, finally.
Yes! It only took decades.
So there's that, and then a little other piece of big Marvel casting news has finally come out. We are going to be getting our villain for the Daredevil series, as Vincent D'Onofrio is going to be playing the Kingpin.
Which is so awesome.
It is an incredible casting. Because it's one of those things that, like, you hear it and you're just like, why the fuck didn't I think of this? Like we talked about last week with casting. Yeah, you're just like, holy crap, that's fucking perfect right there. You get Gorlin to play fucking the Kingpin. That's so spot on. And I'm so much more excited for the Daredevil show now.
Or whatever his name was on Criminal Intent.
Okay. Yeah, it's Gorlin, wasn't it?
That is Gorlin? Was his character's name?
I think it was Gorlin, yeah.
I don't know. I watched like a season of that, went, that was cool, then I like wandered off.
That was like the Law and Order season where they shouldn't even had a second cop because he just did everything.
I know, it was awesome.
But no, this is really cool news. Not just because it's Vincent D'Onofrio, which is awesome in and of itself, but that Daredevil is going to have the presence of a really cool, name recognizable villain right off the top. Now, I know there had been some speculation for a while about where Kingpin stood in the extent of licensing, since he's technically a Spider-Man villain, but over words. But I believe it's a couple interviews Feige has mentioned that Kingpin's in like that nebulous zone where I think pretty much anybody can use him if they really want to.
Yeah, I think it's because he is just a villain in the Spider-Man universe as he is for Daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
I think if they
Basically, any New York hero is going to have him as a villain at some point or
I
another.
think I can't remember which one he started off as, but I know he ended in the opposite. Because I think a lot of people connect him with Spider-Man because of the animated series. Because
Mm-hmm.
he was a villain of that series for like the entire run.
He started an Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yeah, he
Then
started
he became a big villain in Daredevil afterwards
yeah,
because it does make sense for him to be more of a Daredevil villain.
his first appearance was Amazing Spider-Man number 50.
Okay.
So we'll probably jump from there. So no, really cool news there. Very excited about that. And we're about a month away from Comic Con,
Mm-hmm.
so hopefully we'll be getting some more news about that. I don't know why I'm holding out hope for a Punisher reveal at some point. That he's gonna be
I
one.
still say Punisher would be an awesome TV show.
I even if he's not a TV show yet, I would at least introduce him in the street level New York Defender series
Mm-hmm.
of stuff you're
I
doing.
still say I would love for him to be like a villain.
Yeah, or at least an anti-villain, anti-hero kind of thing, whatever way.
He's a really good villain to Murdoch
Mhm.
because he is like the dark version of what Daredevil could be,
Yeah,
who's
he,
all about the justice.
yeah, but he's justice in my own hands as opposed to the
Yes,
lawyer.
and doesn't matter what you did, you need to pay.
Yeah,
And that's why I think he'd be a great counterpoint to that. And I would love to see the big old Punisher pop up, but the problem with the Punisher is that Punisher fans are very fickle.
yeah, I've heard that. I've heard anyway say don't even bother if you can't make it rated R, super gory at
Well,
times.
I'm a Punisher fan, and a friend of mine is even a more hardcore Punisher fan. So, yeah, it Punisher is in that weird tone where you don't have to, my eyes, you don't have to make it super hardcore gory as long as he's a serious character or as long as people take him
As long as
serious.
you make him a big deal, this guy can't be, fucking. He can't be
Poking
like,
people in the back with a popsicle.
yeah, well, he can't be like Iron Man 3, where he's constantly like, "Oh, my armor fell apart. Look at how silly this moment is." He needs to be treated very carefully, or else you kind of take away a lot of that mystique
His
and tone.
bite.
Yeah,
He has to be a force of nature is what the Punisher truly is. He is a force of very very angry nature. So he needs to be treated as such.
you need to
But
do a Punisher comic sometime. I'd be curious to read that.
there's a few of those. I'm still deciding which one
Okay,
because we may do Max, which might be your first Max. Um,
Max, what's
Max is a line of comic books, which I guess we're talking about comics now, which is a good segue into those. The Max comics is the Marvel line of like rated R comics, where
okay,
it could just be like, here's titties, gore, and swearing, and that's the Max line, which
okay.
Stanley's not a
Essentially,
fan of, by the way. He's not a fan of the Max line.
yeah, I can understand that. It's essentially like the seinen equivalent in manga. Just basically the medium for an elder or an older generation that can feature all that kind of gratuitous stuff.
Yes, but the Punisher Max line was very good. There's been a few other decent Max stuff. I think Elektra got a Max. I think Daredevil got a Max. I know Deadpool just recently got a Max, which you're
Electra's a,
surprised that it took him that long to do a Deadpool Max.
yeah, Electra's another character I hadn't thought about before, but it'd be interesting to see if she popped up there as well.
I believe she came bundled with Daredevil in terms of rights.
Yeah, so I would be interested to see if she'll show up in that stuff as well.
Trying to think of any other interesting Max. I think there was a Wolverine Max because Wolverine's got to be in everything.
Of course.
Um, Ghost Rider got a Max, and I think one or two others. But which is a fun little movie segue, which is Punisher and Ghost Rider are part of the Knights line because they're the Marvel Knights, which is
Hmm.
also both of their second movies were under the Knights title as well. Instead of
Hmm.
having the Marvel logo, it said Marvel Knights.
Interesting.
Hmm. So yeah, comics. So this is the comic episode.
Dun 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 dun.
I even read more than you did.
Did you?
I read pretty much comics all Sunday.
Ah.
Because I read really fast. So like I read the second half of Guardians and the Thanos Imperative in like 2 hours.
Yeah, I could see that.
And I was like, okay, more.
Yeah, once you get into it, it's tough to kind of put it down. So
Well,
I'm even seeing here kind of like debate about picking up some new comics tomorrow, which would be the first time I ever pick up comics in my life, and just kind of seeing what things are like.
mm-hmm. Don't pick up the new Guardians. I've heard nothing but bad things.
Yeah, I was looking into that, and it doesn't sound like much of the stuff that was in the last run is in this run. Like
Mm-mm.
Cosmo's not really a part of it. Mantis isn't in the group. For some reason, Drax acts like he's never been human before.
Tony Stark is a main character.
Yeah, weird stuff.
Yeah,
I guess people aren't a fan of Bendis is the name.
yeah, Bendis. But so let's go through some of the ones that we did in order, and let's leave Guardians for last because
Okay.
we have the most to talk about with Guardians.
True.
So let's start off with the one I forgot to read, Ultimate Fantastic Four.
Hmm.
I actually read it a long time ago. I actually have the first four trades of it. Actually, I'm looking at my stack of Marvel comics, and it's like a bunch of Ultimates and then Zombies because I actually got the hardbound copy of Zombies. Shrug.
Loser.
Well, it had okay. Marvel Zombies is one of those weird things where it became awful, but that first book wasn't bad. And that was before let's shove zombies into everything. Like it is now.
True.
So, yeah, it wasn't too bad. There was some stuff I didn't like in it, but all in all, it wasn't a terrible, terrible book. But, so what did you think of Ultimate Fantastic Four?
I was okay on this one. It's not anything against the book. I'm not a huge Fantastic Four fan. I think I've come to realize about myself.
Yeah.
I like some of the art in it. The Mole Man, I think is his name,
Mm-hmm.
or yeah, he was drawn particularly disgusting, which I guess is part of the point with him.
Yeah.
And it was kind of interesting seeing a different sort of origin story for the Fantastic Four.
Yeah,
It's
that's
not
right. I forgot about that.
it's not cosmic radiation at all. It's like a negative zone explosion sort of thing.
Yep. Well, welcome to the Ultimate Universe where they have to do everything just slightly different.
Yeah, so that was a bit interesting. And I guess they also like made it a point that they were like, oh, each one of you has like an element, like things obviously earth and torch is obviously fire, and then because he stretches, they're like you're water. So that's how they figure out that Invisible Woman Sue has the power of invisibility because they have to have some compared to air. I was like, oh, it's a bit strange. I never made that connection on my own. I don't know if that's like supposed to be a running theme with the Fantastic Four or not.
I honestly, I don't even remember that with that book. So, there
It
you
may
go.
have just been one of those things that I held on to, but no, it's good. It's very wordy, particularly during the entire encounter with the Mole Man.
Welcome to Reed Richards, who doesn't shut up.
Yeah, there's a lot of text to kind of get in on that, but no, there are some good points there, and I think if you're a Fantastic Four fan, you'll be able to dig it a little bit more.
Yeah.
A lot of red in that book too. Like if you were to
Yeah.
pick out like a color of tone for that book, it's red because that's all over the place.
Yeah, I can't remember how much Doom is in that book.
Not at all, especially not in his mask. He's never appears in the mask.
That's right. That's why the second trade's called Doom, because it's all about Doom.
Yeah, the first one's just them kind of discovering they have the powers, and then
Yeah.
they kind of fight the Mole Man.
So yeah, not a very good first trade, I'd say, to start with. It's okay.
It works for some people. Again, if you're into Fantastic Four, you'll dig it more than I will. But I'm not a Fantastic Four fan. I think.
Yeah. So there's not really much to talk about. It's the Fantastic Four and does Fantastic Four things. But let's talk about one that I think is going to be an interesting one to talk about, which is Secret Avengers.
Yes.
So that was a interesting book.
Yes. Now this is a point where I'm being introduced for the first time to several characters at once, particularly Moon Knight and Valkyrie, who neither of which I
And the third Ant-Man.
Yeah, the third Ant-Man. Well, he's just a douche. I didn't like the third Ant-Man.
He's a coward and a douche.
Yeah, apparently a very particular lineup of Ant-Mans I like, and it's right in the middle. I like that second Ant-Man. The other two are just...
You're a Lang fan.
Yeah. I'm a Lang man.
Like, man.
Um, no, but it was my first time kind of seeing Moon Knight, and I didn't really know what Moon Knight was going into this. I think I may have played one of the Ultimate Alliance games where he was like referenced in it or something like that.
That Boone guy, whatever.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what he is, and then occasionally I'd hear people describe him as the Marvel Batman,
Yeah.
and I'd be like, okay, well, what does that exactly mean? But now reading him here was an interesting look into this character I had not known about before. And because of that, I read a little bit further into him. And he seems like an interesting character. He's got this almost like a possessed spirit dual identity sort of thing going on with him,
Mm-hmm.
where he's kind of trying to balance a human aspect to him and then like this avatar Egyptian god that's stuck within him. So he's got kind of a cool dynamic there. And then there was Valkyrie, who, from what I can gather, is like that female allegory to Thor,
Yeah.
but they've kind of given her a little bit more separation from that.
It depends on some of the books. I can't remember if it was in the movie Next Avengers or not, where she's his daughter. I think that might have been Valkyrie.
Interesting.
Um, but it's either she is related to Thor, if memory serves. Valkyrie is one of those characters that, since, like most people, I didn't really care about Thor.
Yeah. I mean,
So she's
I
one of those characters I'm like, oh, she has a sword and stabs things. Okay.
I wouldn't have cared about Thor if it weren't for the movies, because I really
Chris
like.
Hemsworth being as dreamy as he was, you mean?
Yeah, well, Chris Hemsworth is incredible, and he's managed to make that character so much cooler to me. I don't know why. There's something about just the fact that they've managed to take a character that goofy and kind of ground him a little bit and make him a bit more appealing, feel a bit more modern. That makes him a
Mm-hmm.
lot more likable since the movies came around, and that influence, from what I've heard, is starting to kind of hit the comics a little bit. They're trying to tone him down a little bit more, and like the Yark Valley, here cometh Thor to smasheth thee with thine hammereth.
Yeah.
Um, so having that is nice. I'm trying to think who was the other one. Beast was in the group.
Which
And
is awesome.
yeah, I'm not used to seeing Beast in something. I guess he's actually like a big Avengers character.
Yes. He's kind of
So
like, because Brees is fucking brilliant,
yeah,
which I like seeing him pop up being smart. And I completely forgot who's in this book. I'm like, oh shit, Beast is in this. It's been a long time since I read Beast not with the X-Men.
mm-hmm. He's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, Nova was in this book.
Mm-hmm.
And
For apparently just those 5 issues.
yeah, he's there to be like a one issue member or one mission team member. It's kind of interesting to see him. I'm not crazy on Nova.
Yeah.
Um, Based off of this and what I've read of him in Thanos Imperative, I could see the appeal to him, but I'm not quite getting into it. So maybe it'll be one I had to read like a solo book of him.
Yeah, and he's a character that I was never truly interested in because, you know, I think I've mentioned this a few times with my comics history. It's like there's a lot of the stuff I never read. I never read Cosmic. I was one of those people who just grew up like, I like Spider-Man and X-Men, wee! And it wasn't until I got older that I started going into the other shit. So it took me a long time to even bust into Cosmic.
Yeah, and I can see it. They have like their own very distinct appeals to them. You got your standard heroes, your Spider-Man, your X-Men. You got your street level heroes, your Iron Fist, your Moon Knights, and then you have this cosmic side to the universe that's just
Wacky.
really out there, yeah, over the top, huge issues all the time. It's one of those things like when I'm reading Thanos Imperative, I'm just like, how would the Avengers even start to act like they could handle this in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah.
It's a fucking wall of Galactuses over there.
Yeah, when Galactus shows up, shit got real.
Yeah, when he shows up to help everybody, then you're like, wow, they're really in a shit position.
Everyone's fucked.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Secret Avengers I thought was the only thing I didn't like about it is how it immediately jumped into let's go to Mars.
It does jump in very quickly, but I guess that's kind of necessary depending on how. I don't know how comic books are necessarily structured. I don't know if a comic can survive too long being like, here's the premise, let's set up.
Well, I mean, usually what you do is you don't jump into an event immediately.
Yeah,
You
you'd
jump
have to make
into, like,
build.
a few small things here and there, then you build to an event. They kinda just had the event.
Yeah.
But then the event is leading into their big event, which was kind of it's weird structuring to me.
Now, was this a tie-in to anything at the time?
Uh, just post, Hydra stuff.
Okay. Was this Secret Invasion time, or is that more recent?
Uh, I think they actually mentioned the Secret Invasion in that.
I know they mentioned in Guardians, and it ties into Guardians. I didn't know.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that this actually took place either around the time or just before it.
Okay. No, I liked it a lot. Obviously, Captain America is my hero, so seeing him in the kind of that leadership role is very cool. He puts on the Nova helmet at one point, takes on the powers of Nova, which is a pretty cool scene,
Mhm.
even if it's just for a moment. Uh, got my first look into a life model decoy,
Yeah.
the LMDs, and that was an interesting story, actually. You know, this.
Yeah, I really dug the sentient LMD story.
Yeah, I dug where they were going with that, and it had a satisfying payoff. I like seeing this version of Nick Fury that's a bit more of the soldier and less of the spy.
Well, that's what White Fury usually is.
Yeah, so it's nice seeing a different version of him. Not necessarily one's better than the other, but it's nice seeing a different take on it.
Which
And
is he's just coming back now to the comic world again because he kind of left after this line. He's
I
just
thought
now coming back.
I thought I heard somebody say that they were killing him off and just making Black Fury the permanent Fury.
He's one of the main characters in the current event comic, Original Sin.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe that's I don't know. Is
Shrug.
there a Black Fury in the Marvel
Yes,
universe?
it's like his son. It's like his son or something close to that. Cousin. I don't remember.
All right.
It's fucking Marvel, man. I can't remember half the shit sometimes.
True.
Plus, I'm
It's
too
not.
hot to look to do research while we're talking.
All right, let's tone it down there. All right, maybe you're pleased with how attractive you are, but you don't need to start bragging about it on
I
podcast.
bet temperature. Jesus,
You're like, fuck you, I'm delicious.
it's so bad. I'm actually drinking water.
How's that bad? Don't you drink water all the time?
Not when we're doing a podcast.
Why would you not drink? Well, oh, because you're a booze hound. That's right. Never mind.
Yes, thank you,
I got my answer.
thank you, thank you.
Also, it's nice seeing Cap with a love interest who's not dead.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, it's Captain America being happy. I like this.
With Peggy's daughter.
Yeah, well, that's weirder. That's the part I wish I didn't get into.
Well, to be fair, she was in Cap 2.
She is, but they've never made that connection.
They're leading into that.
I know, and it's
Yeah.
going to be weird then as well. But
It usually is one of those things that it's kind of like, well, whatever.
I mean, I get it. It's not like it's morally wrong. It's just kind of squicky, and maybe it's just something I can get over.
I would say that's it's one of those things that they handle it pretty well
Mhm.
because usually Cap has issues with it. He's not like, oh well, I can't have
It's
that.
like, I could just bang your younger, hotter daughter.
It's like, oh, another Carter. Pff, I'll just use that one.
Bang the shit out of this.
I'll trade up. But yeah, no, they usually do handle it. If memory serves, they handle it well usually.
Okay,
So it's not just like, okay, whatever. No, they build up to it.
that's good to hear. That.
Yeah, and another thing too that I liked about it was that the team was involved. It wasn't just watch Cap win,
Yeah, no, everybody gets stuff to do in this.
except
You
for
know,
Black Widow.
Yeah, I kind of forgot she was in there for a little bit, but I imagine she's one of those like, I have a very specific moment where I kick ass sort of things. Because the team has like a pretty distinct hierarchy. I mean, you've got like War Machine and Valkyrie and Cap there. So like these guys are just gonna kick monumental amount of ass, and then it's like, oh, then we got Beast and Black Widow. You're just like, I guess you're here for other aspects to kicking ass, and it makes sense for a team.
Also, since they were fighting on Mars, it was a little more difficult for them to do things.
Yeah.
But so that's Secret Avengers. Now, I didn't ask this about Ultimate Fantastic Four because I knew the answer to that question. Would you continue reading this?
Yes, I would definitely continue reading Secret Avengers.
Word.
It seems like a good book. It seems fun. Brute Baker's very good.
Hmm.
I've come to realize that after Winter Soldier in this, I can see why he's so highly respected.
Okay, well, next up was Days of Future Past book, which we touched on last week.
Yes.
So, how'd it feel to read some old school stuff?
That was actually a pleasant surprise. I don't know why. I always thought like the old school stuff was going to be a lot cornier than it actually turned out to be. It's actually got some really great writing in it. I don't know if I mentioned this last week on episode or not, but seeing what Colossus should be like makes me so upset to how the movie has always characterized him. Because in the comics, he's incredibly soft spoken, but whenever he speaks, it's always very profound.
Hmm.
Obviously not when it's like Storm, watch out, but if someone's gonna talk to Colossus, he generally has something pretty smart to say. And it's a bit strange that in the movie he never speaks. When he does, it's just like, let me move this television for you, or Rogue just left, or some other bullshit like that.
I'm here in the third movie because we needed somebody else.
Yeah, pretty much. So it's kind of cool seeing that sort of stuff going on there, especially because in the whole Days of Future Past storyline, he's one of the few people who survives in the future, and they
Hmm.
keep noting that he's a man that has been just driven to this extreme anger based off of all of these events that have happened, and it's turned such a gentle soul into such a violent person. You're seeing him fight against these sentinels and try to win, and you're seeing all those he cares about being killed or destroyed. Absolutely, he sees a couple. I think it's like what Wolverine and Storm right in front of his eyes get blown apart. And you don't see him die. You know he dies though, because what Summer Gray, I think it is like, oh, he's gone too. But he goes out like a fucking bam. He's taking on all these Sentinels at once. Um, he was really cool in that. It's kind of interesting seeing Shadowcat in her original version when
It's
she
so
was.
weird whenever you say Shadow Cat because I almost never call her that.
Hey, I grew up with the X-Men Evolution show, so I kind of name her based off of that. But yeah, obviously in here she's what, Ariel,
Hmm.
I think she is, and she also goes by Sprite sometimes. So it's weird seeing that character start in the universe because she's so much younger than everybody else. She doesn't like to fight. She's running away from everything. It's weird seeing that dynamic in there. And I guess it's like a couple chapters before, it's a really good starting point actually for getting into those X-Men books. It's when Scott decides to leave the X-Men, and the entire like chapter or issue is basically just him explaining the entire history of the X-Men all the way through.
That's why I was included in that trade, really.
Yeah, it's a
Helps.
it's a really good pickup place to kind of understand where things are at in that universe at the time. Who are the enemies they fought. I never realized Nightcrawler was such a little girl. I don't know why. He's always screaming and running, and
Well, they had to make him the opposite of our perception of Germans.
I guess it was just like, so das gods, I'm so unafraid. Someone save me! Like, what the fuck? What is this?
Just bamf away, Jesus.
Crying. But no, he's cool. No, it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's interesting also seeing Storm as the leader of the X-Men.
But she
You
was
know,
for a little while.
yeah, and this is what, like, late '80s book,
Early 80s.
early '80s book. It's kind of crazy thinking that in the early '80s, a major comic book team was led by a minority female character.
But let's still be honest, there's still a white dude actually leading it.
Yeah, technically Charles is the leader of it, and eventually Scott does come back and become the leader again. But it is kind of cool, I think, to see that happen back then.
Yes.
It wasn't a big deal. Well, I'm sure it was a big deal for some, but it shouldn't have been.
Well, I think at that point in time, we were starting to get used to the fact that the X-Men leadership changes all the time,
Sure.
which it does.
Yeah, all over the place.
I mean, it's so funny. Everyone hates Scott until what they have done to him.
I've heard he's in an interesting place right now,
He's kind of a monster.
to say the least.
Yeah, he's kind of the villain right now.
Poor Scott.
Well, he pretty much was the villain in Avengers versus X-Men.
I did hear about that.
Yeah, which is an interesting take on Scott, but it's kind of like, oh, whatever. Okay. But no, Days of Future Past reminded me of the old school stuff that I used to read back in the back in the 90s actually, because I read comics in the 90s. The only thing that's really different is the fact that they were more wordier and the artwork was worse.
Yeah, and I mean, the artwork isn't necessarily bad per se. You can just see that today it's a lot more
The
dynamic.
The only thing that I always point out when it comes to 80s stuff, which is I usually have an issue reading 80s stuff just because the lack of shading,
Mm-hmm.
which just makes me just read like I'm like, oh, I'm just reading panels, and I have that issue when it comes to reading the older stuff, which is why I always have issues reading omnibuses when it comes to the old school stuff. So it kind of takes me until like mid 90s to start fully enjoying comics. But it was a good trip down memory lane because I have not read this in probably God I'm gonna feel terrible saying this in about 10 years. It's been since I've read this last.
Wait, you gonna feel old?
Mm-hmm.
Shh, calm down. You a young, spry kid. How old are you?
I don't want to say.
Just, whisper it to me.
I'm 28.
Oh God. It's like are you gonna die any minute?
Ah!
Oh God, I'll have to carry on this podcast alone.
Due to multiple voices.
Yeah, I'm
Oh
just like,
God, no, no, no! That's not a cue.
hey guys, I really like that movie. Oh, I thought it was pretty good. Oh, hello everybody, it's me, racist character.
Yes, he is racist character. But no, it was an interesting trip. I think I'm still wondering when we're gonna go back down that again. I do have some 90s stuff planned.
Interesting.
Yeah, I may toss out because I'm trying to think of what I read back then, which was really good 90s comics. I mean, what like most comic fans, what stands out are the event comics. So like I remember like the worst fucking event comic ever, which was the Symbiote Wars.
Ooh, that bad?
Oh, okay. You know how kind of
You're
annoying
like, take a seat.
Okay, you know how kind of annoying it is that there's already two main symbiotes?
Venom and Carnage.
Correct.
Hmm.
Add three more.
Who are those?
They don't exist anymore, really.
Oh, okay. They're like just
There
out
was
of
a female one, another dude, and it was just that was also during the Ben Parker stuff.
Okay.
So it was Ben Parker plus tons of symbiotes.
I have heard very negative thoughts in regards to
Ben Parker.
Ben Parker and that time of Spider-Man.
Am I a clone? Am I not a clone? I think I'm a clone. I'm not a clone. Symbiotes.
Can clones ever really love?
It was really bad. But no, I'm trying to think of anything else from back then. I know we're gonna do the Age of Apocalypse stuff. We
Mhm.
talked about that, the fact that we were gonna do that at some point, but I'll have to dig through the '90s shit and figure out what we're gonna do. But let's talk about the big meat of what we need to talk about. We have a lot to talk about with Guardians.
Yes. Obviously, we have a lot to talk about, not just in terms of the comics, but how these comics then apply to what we may see in the movie.
I have a very strong feeling that if my idea that they're gonna do a Guardians 2 before Avengers 3,
Mm-hmm.
this the Thanos imperative, I mean, not in its current form, so a little too insane, could be a decent follow up to that movie of bringing back Thanos.
It could. I don't.
It's a little crazy.
That's a lot, because then you're getting into the notion that anyone who's seen Guardians 2 is going to see Thanos already have been beaten once by the time Avengers 3 comes around.
I don't know. It was just an idea that popped into my head. But we'll
Yeah,
get into the Thanos
yeah.
imperative
After we get through your Guardians. Guardians is a very good book.
It has its dips.
It has some low points to it. At the start, I really liked Quasar. What is it? Phyla Vel, I think is her name. I thought she was kind of cool, and then she just grabs the idiot stick and just decides.
Martyr.
Yeah, she just. I guess that's one of those things that because comics are constantly crossing over with each other, some dude just floats by like, "Hey," and she's like, "You're the real Mister Quantum. Here, take my quantum pants." He's like, "Cool, peace," and then floats away. And she's just like, "I'll become martyr now." I was like, "Okay, I don't quite know what happened there, but fair enough." But no, like the cast of characters in Guardians grew into a very cool entity by the time I reached the end of it. Because I started off kind of a little bit apprehensive towards them, especially Mantis, because I was like, I don't like characters who can tell the future. I feel like it always cheapens the book because anytime something big should happen, the character should already know about it. and it's just too powerful an ability to have.
They handle it very well.
Well, what they do is they eventually just stop recognizing it.
Well, they also make it so that she can't see things all the time.
Yeah, she can't see things all the time. Some of the time she sees things that are
I
wrong.
think they also say that she can't control it.
She can't control it. Eventually, it just starts getting blocked. Like the events that are happening are basically so like reality shattering that her psychic powers just can't, foretell what's going to happen at that point.
Or it's used for an amazing joke.
Yeah, but eventually, what they do is they just focus on her being this, liaison to the team, basically like their base help person. She's a psychic. She has martial arts power, and eventually she joins the team and becomes a very cool member. And that's sort of what happens with the whole group. Is they start off. There's some characters kind of like off the bat, but eventually,
Like Rocket.
yeah, but eventually there's some that just grow on me, and there are really great moments. Rocket has a whole bunch of them. I forget there's one where he's just like, "Keep talking, don't mind me while I point this ridiculously large weapon at you," or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I think it was with Thanos.
Yeah, he has those moments where he just has like great lines. Peter Quill has one too. He's like, "Peter, name's Peter Quill. I'd show you my ID badge, but my hands are too full of guns right now."
Which I that's how I sold you on the book, was that
Yeah.
panel. And it's like, this is the Guardians book in a nutshell. And it's like,
Yeah,
it's such an amazing scene.
there's great funny moments like that all over the place.
Like Groot being a representative on Space UN.
That's great when they're just like, we have him there, and he's like, "I am Groot."
He just stands up and goes, "I am Groot," and like sits down.
One of my favorite moments is, I guess also I should note there's a small problem with the books in that they don't really get to tell their own story because almost every issue is intrinsically tied to some other event comic. At the start, they kind of have their own thing to do for a little bit, but then it becomes, here's our Secret Avengers or Secret Invasion tie-in. Here's our War of the Kings tie-in.
The War of the Kings is like half the book.
Yeah, here's our Realm of the Kings tie-in, and then eventually, once all that ends, they had to start leading into the Thanos imperative because the Guardians play a huge part in that. So there's not a whole lot of time where the comic isn't moving in its own direction, where it doesn't have to go along with something else that's happening. And because of that, there's also a few storylines that you're not going to see closed off by the end of the book, like Magus. You don't get to find out what happens with that through any of the books that I read. I don't know if that happens in like Nova or something else, but one of the things that's cool is eventually they run into the Thunderbolts, and they're trying to work out a plan with them. And Maximus, I think is his name. He's like the super intelligent one. He starts talking, and like Groot says something like, "I am Groot," and all of a sudden he's like, "That's genius!" And everyone's like, "What the fuck?" He just says, "I am Groot." He's like, "No, you don't understand it. This man is so super intelligent that to you it only seems like he's saying I am Groot, but there's so much nuance in him that this man is a genius." I am Groot. I never thought of that before, Groot. This is incredible. You've completely redefined quantum physics.
I am Groot. It was such a, and then just Rocket being there like, okay.
Yeah, just like standing like, is this real or is this fucking dude so insane that he's just saying that's the truth so he could bounce ideas off of somebody?
Yeah. And it does make you wish that they were able to do their own book, but then apparently when they do get their own book, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's going to be a couple of things like that, but I still enjoy it. Like, that's not, it's not necessarily like a deal breaker or anything like that. It's just understand there's going to be things that happen, you're going to be like, why is this happening? I don't understand who these characters are. And then there's stuff where you're going to see what's happening, and then it's going to get finished in another book, and you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah. But in the end, though, it's a fantastic book. There's some great writing in there. It was weird when the art was changing every issue.
Yeah, there is a strange phenomenon where at first it only seemed to apply whenever they went somewhere different. Like at one point they're in the realm of death, and the art changed while they were in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then it like kind of did that again when they go back in time or
forward.
They were forward in time. But then it eventually just changes outright a little bit, and it's interesting. I like the art kind of when it's at its standard throughout most of the series the most. I thought there's some really great stuff there.
Yeah.
But there's some good moments in and out. It was like the manga side of me when I was reading the point where they're all like shifting through time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, Mantis is a baby. I'm like, I'm just waiting for the moment where she becomes an adult again. She has no clothes on. Yeah. I was like, I just can tell this is going to happen.
Yeah. And then it does, and you're like, and they played it off pretty well.
Yeah. It's not like fucking cheesecake or anything like that, but no, I mean, I really came to enjoy characters I didn't think I was going to. I've mentioned a couple times here and through other podcasts. My favorite character throughout all the Guardians book now was Cosmo.
Who's so awesome.
He's a fun fucking character. He's this space dog who has a Russian accent and is super like powerful telepath and telekinetic, and he's just knocking people around with his psychic energy and fighting people. And it's just a dog, you know. There's a point where I guess there's a dog within the Thunderbolts, some
Yeah.
like big space dog, and like Cosmos underneath them, just looking up at him, and he's just like, "Are you God?" There's great moments like that. That fucking dog is incredible. I really hope he shows up in the movie at some
I
point.
absolutely loved it when they were trying to escape that one ship and he's just tossing dudes to the side like, Cosmo done, get out of way.
It's the Russian accent that helps so much
Oh my
with it.
god.
It's so like stereotype over the top. It's just like we will be going now. He has
We
his
must
own
do
catch.
TP.
Yeah, he has his own catchphrase, "Bossez moi" whenever shit gets real.
Yep.
It's a lot of fun though. I really dug it.
That him and Jack Flag were your two favorites.
Jack Flag I liked a lot. Mantis I really grew to like her as well. So it probably went like Cosmo, Mantis, and then like Jack Flag, and the rest of the Guardians all in there are great. Gamora kind of teepers off towards the end. She doesn't get to do a whole lot, but she starts off awesome where she basically saves the entire group by like going unprotected or very limited protection out into the sun to help like turn a radiation shield back on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like almost kills her. It's a great, cool moment. Peter Quill redeems himself. He kind of looks like a bit of a chump early on, but by the end of it, you can kind of see exactly what's going on. He gets even more in Thanos Imperative, where they specifically know, I think it may even just be Thanos, it's just like, oh, you're only pretending to be an idiot. You actually know what's going on around here.
Yeah, he's always like 2 steps ahead of everybody. He's just pretending not to be, so it helps him do his plans easier.
Yeah, and then Drax actually turned out to be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a bit more optimistic about him, Batista playing him in the movie now, based off of the fact that the comic version of him was a lot cooler than I thought he would be.
Yeah. So let's talk about the event comic,
Mm-hmm.
which is very close to being a Guardians event comic in the end, because it's about like half Guardians in that book.
Yeah, I mean, they're the ones who are intrinsically tied to Thanos throughout that entire run. And since it's a book about Thanos, obviously they play a very large role in things. There's a couple other characters too. The Thunderbolts play a huge role.
Nova.
Nova, obviously, a very big role. And eventually there just becomes like the Space Avengers, like the Silver Surfer, Beta Ray Bill, Gladiator, Ronan the Accuser.
Which was kind of awesome.
Yeah, it's like they have this moment where they're all walking together, and I'm like, I only know about two of you, but I can gather this is a very badass team up.
Especially with fucking Silver Surfer.
Yeah, because Silver Surfer's like fucking like one of the strongest Marvel characters, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, so seeing him on that team with those guys is a very cool moment. I like this actually. I was a bit skeptical going in because I was like, I don't know what's going on really, and there's some stuff that's kind of bouncing around. But it eventually got very cool. It was this whole plot that there's essentially a parallel universe where death has been killed, the Avatar death, so people aren't dying. And it's essentially this idea of like, what if there was no death? What if no one ever died? You know, a universe where life ruled, and essentially it just became this giant cancer verse where all these creatures were just constantly living. Nobody was dying, so it was just expanded to its breaking point, and now it's going to invade our world and kill all of us, and kill our avatar of death, so that the process can just continue to expand more and more. And anyone who would die is instead basically just going to be tortured in an endless cycle of tentacle flayers.
And also Lovecraft.
Yeah, so it's got a lot of Lovecraft influences in there.
I think it's almost entirely Lovecraft.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
There's the Revengers. There, that universe's version of the Avengers. So it's kind of cool seeing them fight against everybody. A lot of really good stuff in there. Again, you get some great moments with Peter Quill in there and the Guardians. The only thing I didn't get, why did Drax look so fucking goofy in it?
Because that's how he kind of... Oh, Drax, you mean?
Yeah, Drax.
I thought you said Thanos for a second there. I don't know.
He like comes in and he's like, I'm fucking Peter Pan, y'all. Just like, what do you do? Like, I'm the purple Peter Pan. Like, why are you wearing these clothes? Like, you were shirtless and bald the rest of this. Now you've got like this fucking Shakespearean hat and frilly clothes. What is this?
I'm preparing for battle.
Like, all right, fair enough, I guess. Your space armor.
But I have to say, I am pretty anti let's shove Lovecraft into things.
Mm-hmm.
So the moment I started seeing that stuff popping up, I started groaning incredibly loudly. And the fact that I liked it by the end is a really good sign. I mean, just the fact that like fucking Captain America's emblem is changed to an elder sign.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they say their swear is like Fathagan, I believe is what it is. It's FHTAGN, I believe is what their curse is for the Cancer First dudes.
Yeah.
Which is another very Lovecraftian thing. The amount of tentacles. There was a lot of tentacles.
A lot of those in there.
Yeah, they also mentioned Migos at one point. So I'm like, oh, so we're just going full Lovecraft here. Okay.
Oh, what the fuck is a Namorita?
I don't remember.
Like, I saw it and I was just like, all right, there's got to be like, does every fucking character have to have like the female? Like, does every male character have that? Like, is there a Black Pantherette out there somewhere?
Probably. I don't
It
know.
was like, does everybody have one? Did Namor really need like a female equivalent of himself?
Probably. But in the end, I actually really liked how it ended. It ended awesomely.
Yes, it does. Big sacrificial moments are always cool moments to me. But it's open ended enough that you're just like, who knows?
I'll explain something about that in a minute, which is what my giggle came from. But I absolutely like the fact Thanos tricks them, but he's actually doing a double play,
Yeah.
which I really dug.
Oh, I love the moment where he tricks them and everyone's just like, oh, God fucking damn it!
Son of a bitch!
Why did we not fucking see this?
And then he was just like, double fooled you!
It was a very cool fucking moment there.
Yes.
Yeah, I said the Guardians look great in that. There's a moment where Galactus shows up and he's on the hero side. You're just like, oh shit.
Everyone's like, I love that even everyone else was like, oh, damn.
Oh shit, me.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a good series to read if you're kind of trying to grasp the cosmic side of things because it introduces a lot of characters into that.
And how crazy it is.
Yeah, it doesn't include what was the Living Tribunal, which I guess is like the big entity in the Marvel universe. Like that's like their step below God essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But you can kind of tell the power levels of some of these characters. Are like, okay, like the Guardians would be around here, and then like above that might be like this 6-man super team with the Silver Surfer and all that. Then above them would be these.
It's just the Silver Surfer by himself.
Yeah, and then it's fucking Silver Surfer, then the Celestials and all that.
Mm-hmm. But it was an incredibly rad book. I liked a lot of the stuff. I did kind of like how they just straight up murdered Drax.
Yeah, he gets fucking wasted at one point. I do like how they explain the fact that he becomes an idiot for a little bit. They're like, look, he just can't. He's the living avatar of life at this point. The avatar of death is right in front of him, and it's a universe filled with life surrounding him. He can't help but.
We really shouldn't have brought him.
Yeah, we really should have fucking left him at home.
Yeah, but even before he came, he's like, "You're not leaving me behind. I can't leave him out of my sight."
Yeah, it was bound to happen one way or the other.
Yeah, and I did like that explanation. Now, the reason I giggled about the whole sacrifice play.
Mm-hmm.
I guess a little spoiler about what the sacrifice play is. Peter Quill just comes back, no explanation.
Yeah, I think I read something along those lines because I was like, how does the new book explain him?
He's just back.
Yeah, he's just like, hey guys, I got out of the cancer universe.
I was here the whole time.
Or something, yeah, I don't know. It's like that thing where I'm just like, this is why comics are a frustrating thing to outsiders. And I imagine to many fans as well, because you're just like, was there a consequence to this, essentially?
Well, I think it's also a symptom of the retooling and the restarting of series. So they were like, we need to start up Guardians for Marvel now, and because we're leading into eventually a Guardians movie, so we need to have this thing running. And then they're just like, well, shit. we have the main character's dead. So let's just not explain it.
Ooh, yeah.
So they were just in a bad position. I can imagine. And also you could probably tell not a great writer either.
Yeah, I have not heard very many good things about Bendis, unfortunately.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people are hoping that he stops writing Guardians soon.
I mean, it definitely seems very likely considering the fact that Marvel is putting a very big emphasis on Guardians
Oh
now.
my god. They're
Not just in
pushing
the
Guardians hard right
not
now.
just with the movie, but they're like after this movie, fucking Guardians are gonna get a lot more attention. So they're in all the promotional material, making a whole fuck ton more toys. There's talk of a TV show maybe coming out. So
I think it's because Marvel really knows. I think they're sure this is going to do incredibly well.
at this point, it's projected to make a lot of money or
Mm-hmm.
decent money. They're the numbers and the praise or the anticipation is in that they're just like, look, unless there's a monumental change in like the next 2 months or something colossally strange happens, this movie's going to make money. And at that point, you have to push this like you are every other big property you've done. You have to push this like it's the Hulk, Iron Man, or Captain America. You have to make this a big deal.
Because in the end, Guardians is Marvel's Star Wars.
Yes, and this is going to be the start of that whole other side to the universe. I mean, the Thanos Imperative happens. It's this huge event that shapes all of reality. Never at any point does it touch Earth at all. You
And
don't.
then you look at Earth and go, Earth has no place in this.
Yeah, Earth would be like, are you fucking like, what the fuck could Captain America do in this situation?
Throw his shield at some dudes.
Yeah, like he could have a cool moment where he's just like, "We'll always stand for life" or some bullshit like that. But he seriously can't do dick in this situation. Like this is fucking way beyond him. So this is one of those moments, which is like there's an entire side of this universe to tell stories that you can make them huge, and they never have to impact this universe or the other side of this universe that we're used to already.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the same thing we're getting with the TV shows. That's going to be the same way too. They're going to be able to tell these stories that are the inverse. They're so small, it being big enough that they don't have to impact the larger universe as we
Or
see
it's
them.
something that works better in a serialized format.
Yeah, like so, there's some really cool stuff that's coming out, and Guardians is definitely in place to be a huge movie.
But it's amazing how your opinion of like that kind of thing can change. You're like, Guardians, what's that? Oh my god.
It's like that's almost definitively what happened. When I heard Guardians was coming out, I was just like, "What the fuck? What is a talking raccoon in it?" All right, whatever, Marvel. And then I started getting more into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I was like, "Okay, we'll see what happens." Then the trailer came out, and I was like, "I don't know about this. This seems a little too out there." But as I've gotten into it, embraced it, I'm so into it now. I see why it's so much fun, and I'm like, I really can't wait to enjoy this.
Because it has such a sense of fun about it.
Yeah, and that's what I want in comic books. I want fun. You can put drama and all that stuff in there, but I want a moment where fucking Raccoon's just like, yeah, keep talking. Just don't mind if I point this incredibly oversized shotgun in your face.
Oh, but or like when he's talking to Jack Flag and those meteors are coming down, and it's like, what are you gonna do, Rocket? Is what you're going to say. And I'm gonna say, I'm gonna take my comically overlarge gun and do this. It just shows him just unloading it.
Yeah, and just everyone's just like, I fucking hate cosmic shit.
And that's the thing, is that you do need that counterbalance. I mean, this is one of the things that we riff on when it comes to DC, is like not everything needs to be serious.
Hmm.
And you need to, the best thing that you could do is to have something serious happen to people who aren't.
Yeah, and like Guardians, the movie is almost marketed entirely on this notion. Like, look, people don't know who we are. This is kind of silly. This should be a mistake, but this is going to be so much goddamn fun. You're going to thank us by the
And
end.
we're going to save the universe at the
Yeah,
same time.
yeah, and when all is said and done, you'll be so happy you got this. Like that's an incredible marketing strategy. In that, if it pulls itself off, Marvel is free reign to just do what they want from there on out.
Oh yeah. And Guardians is just gonna make fucking bank. I mean, they've got two characters already in that group who are going to be huge, with just Groot and Rocket are gonna take the fuck off.
Yeah, I mean they've already like whispered about the notion of doing a Rocket Raccoon movie. The movie's not even fucking out, but they're like, this dude's gonna break out.
Oh yeah.
So I'm really excited for it. At first, I was completely against the idea of Guardians 2. I was just like, yeah, we'll just do this one here, and Marvel can play with this universe and see what happens. But assuming this movie's any good, and I'm on the side of thinking this is going to be a pretty good movie. I'm definitely like, yeah, let's do more. Let's show more of what the Guardians can do. Let's put Jack Flag and Mantis in the movie or something like that. Let's get Adam Warlock and maybe a less lame version of Quasar in there. A side of her that
Exactly.
doesn't give up her magic bracelets of awesomeness to some dude I didn't know who he was, so she could fucking walk around with a stupid sword.
I still have a feeling that they're going to play the long play for a trilogy, which is going to be this movie, and towards the end they're going to introduce Warlock. Warlock's going to have a major part two, and he's going to become Magus.
Yeah,
He's
it's
going to
gonna
be
be
the villain of the third movie.
it's essentially going to be this generation's X Men. This will be the Jean Grey of this trilogy.
But done well.
Yeah, that's the key thing. It won't be like X3, hopefully.
Yes, so that's an important thing that has to happen. It has to be done well.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I am incredibly excited to see how Guardians is going to play out. And so that brings us to the end of the comic talk, doesn't it?
It does.
So I started reading another book,
Okay.
and I read a lot of it. In fact, I started reading She-Hulk
Oh, really?
after our talk, and I grabbed the '04 run, which was 12 issues, the '05 run, which was 30 something issues, I believe, and then I also grabbed the because she's on issue 5.
Yeah, there's a currently running series as well.
Yes, so I grabbed all those, and I'm like, okay, let's see how this works. Started reading '04, finished reading '04, and got halfway through the '05.
Okay.
It's really fucking good.
Did you really dig it that much?
It's really fucking good. There's the idea of her working for a superhero like law firm,
Mm.
and there's some great fucking bits in there, like how she gets pulled into the intergalactic law firm and starts just like giving out sentencing, and just like it's kind of working, and then she eventually has to go into an intergalactic boxing match with this
So
guy
it's
called the
almost
Champion.
it's almost like self-aware
It,
creepiness.
it, it's but the best part is the Champion like beats the shit out of Adam Warlock, Drax, um, Beta Ray Bill, um, who else does he just straight up beat the shit out of? And it's hilarious. And then so it ends up being, no joke, an '80s training montage with Gamora teaching her how to fight. It's amazing.
That sounds fun.
It's fun as shit. And it also has to do with the fact of it does have a serious side, which is really good, but it is mostly a comedy series, and I love their way of breaking the fourth wall. Is
That's always
fantastic. It's fantastic. So you may be able to guess what next week's recommendation is. It's gonna be a Punisher book. No,
good. We're going to be reading about Iron Fist.
no.
So which one is this?
We are gonna read Single Green Lawyer.
Single green female. Is that it?
I believe it's either Single Green Lawyer. I believe is actually what the first trade is called.
I'm looking at this 2004 run.
Yes.
Yep, single green female is what it's called.
Well, balls. Yes.
But you can find this. This is on Comixology, $10.99 for the first volume.
Which
and
is
it
6
has-
issues if memory serves.
Yep, and then volume 2 is there, Superhuman Law.
Which is the second half of the '04 run.
Yep.
But
So
yes.
it's just two volumes?
Well, the '04 run is 2 volumes. It's 12 issues. And then they just go into the '05 run because I believe there was an event comic in between that. And they just didn't want to have her doing stuff in between.
Okay. So then the 2005 run would be... Oh, okay, here it is. She-Hulk, 2005 through 2009. Yeah, okay, time trials and all this. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. All this is up on Comixology.
We're just going to read the first volume for now.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yes. And once I'm completely done with She-Hulk, I'm going to figure out... Because I'm actually trying to find a comic that's currently running that I want to read.
Okay.
And I'm having an issue with that. I'm like, I want to read Guardians. And I'm like, everyone's like, it's fucking shit. And I'm like, damn it.
Well, what are you thinking on?
Well, that's why I grabbed She-Hulk.
Okay.
I grabbed She-Hulk to give that a try. Well, I want to get up to that point.
Okay.
I was also gonna check out to see how all the other comics are going, and I wanted to read Original Sin.
I'm actually putting all that in my shopping cart right now to check it out.
Original Sin?
Yeah, Original Sin 0 through 3, and then pre-order on 4.
Yep, because that's the currently running event comic, which is a good event comic to bump into for the most part. It's got that weird stuff where there's it's an event comic, so if you don't know some of the lead in, you're kind of like, what?
What's happening? Why is Iron Man a chick? What happened?
He has metal boobs now. But no, it does the best thing that most event comics can do and not have a lot of side issues.
That's a very good thing.
Which I think there's like two side comics, which is Original Sins, which is the one that has to do with, I believe, some of the side characters and what's going on with them with Original Sin. And I think there is one other event going on at the same time with it. I can't honestly remember because when I looked at it and I heard it's a murder mystery, I'm like, I'm done reading. So we got that. I'm still trying to figure out how to read Civil War.
That's a tough one. I hear good things about it, but that is one of those ones that sounds like it has all sorts of issues all over the place.
It's Oh, well, that's the problem when you have a planet-wide event comic happening.
Yeah,
So
because
it's like
everyone got involved with that.
everyone did, even She-Hulk. But since it's got the pro-reg and the anti-reg movements, and they're all completely different people. Mutants are in there as well, so they all have their own shit going on. Memory serves, I think there's like 13 trades of it because
Jesus.
it's just like here's Avengers Civil War, here's
Here's
X-Men
X-Men.
Civil War.
Here's Spider-Man Civil War. Here's
Exactly.
Daredevil Civil War.
Exactly. Here's all of these other things that are going on, and it's just super dense. The
Mm.
only one that's uh, as dense but a little easier is House of M.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Because House of M, since House of M is just mutant stuff, but since there's still a fuck ton of mutant stuff, yeah. But there's a few things I'm looking up. So that's gonna be the thing for right now is She-Hulk. We may take another week off of recommendations just because I need to build up a library of things that I want to read, and I do need to research 80s and 90s stuff for us to read at some point.
That's fair enough. I guess I should note I will be out on July 1st. By the way, I won't be able to do a show that week.
Well, we should probably talk about that when we're not in the middle of an episode.
Are you sure? I think people will be very interested about this.
Well,
Right now, people are taking notes. They're just like, oh,
that's
really?
good. Now break into place at July.
You don't understand. I have a really tough dog. You can't do that.
But yeah, so we've got a few things that we could do. We could also start digging into the non-MCU films.
True.
So we got a bunch of stuff not planned at all,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll hopefully plan it soon. But that's going to do it for us this week, which this looks like this might be a little bit of a shorter one for once.
It was. I mean, we're talking about comics for the most part on it, but still feels like a solid hour, guys.
A little under an hour, probably.
You can get fucking free entertainment. All right, don't make us regret doing this.
I already do. So, hope you all had a good time. See you guys next week.
Bye.